Hey everybody, and welcome back to Live Between Paychecks Kitchen. I'm Oz. Jack and Later still at Lake Jackson. We're prepared for our 300th video, which should be coming up next week, which is going to be awesome. And yeah, this one, it's cold weather, so it's time for soups. It's always time for soups. For me, because I'm not picky, that's why this looks like this. But soups are awesome. Now this is going to be kind of an insight into how the show works and how my brain works. I don't want to talk too much, but I generally walk around, try to find some recipes, whatever, in the store, try to grab some stuff, do it. For some reason, I bought a giant hunk of celery. I was like, I have to have celery for a recipe. And I forgot the recipe. So I've had the celery sitting in my thing for a week. I got to use it for something, so we're going to make celery soup. It's going to be awesome. If I remember what that other recipe was. I can't think. I'm not a giant celery fan, so the soup's going to be great. I'll eat it because, again, not picky, but I want to know what that other recipe was. Before we get into it, be sure to like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube-y stuff. Check out our link down in the doobly-doo for our merch. And let's just get into it. Celery soup. Alright, this is a lot of stuff, but it's mostly seasoning, so it's not a big deal. You're going to need some celery. You're going to want about 6 cups of that, which is generally just one bundle. You want a little bit of potatoes. I did 2 of the smaller ones, or 1 big one's fine. It says 6 cloves of garlic in the recipe. I'm just going to use the whole bulb because that's what we're doing. And 1 whole onion. I'm using red because it just looks better. Or purple. Sorry, it's red. You're going to want about 6 cups of water. You're going to want 2 tablespoons of oil to kind of cook some stuff down. Very little of that. You're going to want some broth. Now, I screwed up and got the beef broth, or I had beef broth. I thought I had chicken or vegetable at home. If you want it to be vegetarian completely, don't use beef broth. Use the vegetable stuff. The sour cream, again, it's anywhere. It depends on how thick you want it. But I use the whole tub. Salt and pepper, that's, again, optional to taste. I'm going to use 1 bay leaf just because I think it's better that way. You want to get a little bit of cayenne pepper if you feel like a little bit of spice. Dill weed, you can either use dry or fresh, the same as your parsley. I ended up using both of them dry. If you want it to be a more green color, use the fresh stuff. Okay, first things first, you're going to want a big pot. Like I got this one, I think this was a 3 or 5 gallon. I think it's 3. Secondly, wash all your vegetables and clean all your garlic. Now, got everything clean, got the garlic peeled down from a bulb, got all that done. So just chop this down now. I didn't read the the recipe all the way down to the instructions. Eventually we're going to end up blending this. So when you're cutting these down, just cut them down small as possible that you're comfortable with. We're going to hit with a blender. Now the potatoes, I was told to do them in like 1/8 or 1/16 inch rounds, which this one's a little big. You can kind of see it there. But if you're going to blend it, it doesn't matter. If you want to leave it chunky, just make it small in rings. Now onion, again, pull all the papery skin off, and then I'm just going to try to dice this down as small as possible. Just attack it with your knife. Be sure to get all the papery parts off. This little weird nipply thing on the end, cut that off. It's just where the skin comes together. So I just sliced this one down one way, then the other, close enough. But again, I used, this is my first time I ever used an immersion blender. One of the ones that's on a stick that looks like it belongs on a bedside table. I got to use that, and it does not mess around. So, yeah, cut it down as small as possible, or whatever you're comfortable with. My celery, again, I just gave it a single slice all the way down. Even when it came to the leaves, I want it to be a little, artistic with the leaves. So just go ahead and chop those down as well. Again, if you don't have a blender, you don't want to use a blender, you can use it as like a thicker, more vegetables in your mouth per spoon, chunky soup, which is fine. Just when I was doing the cream stuff, the immersion blender made so much more sense. So first things first, get your pot, make sure it's nice and clean, get all the hairs out of the bottom of it. I think I was just leaning over this one too long. So get it nice and clean. You're going to put your heat at about medium high, and we're going to add our pan lotion, which is olive oil to everybody else. You want to put about a tablespoon or 2 or 3 teaspoons in it, and go ahead and put your garlic and onions in it. We're going to go ahead and saute those down in the bottom of our pot. So put those down in there. Be sure to keep stirring them until your onions start to go see-through. Not completely. You don't want them completely caramelized because they got to cook later in the soup too. Just don't let them sit on the bottom, especially if it's at medium high. It can scorch the bottom of it, so just keep them stirring. Once it gets nice and fragrant, you'll have to start this oil off the top of it. This is what you're looking for. Like I said, just make sure it's knocked around. Be sure to check your onions. Probably don't have to stir quite as vigorously as I did here. Start looking at your onions and kind of see through them. That's when you want to add everything else. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Put your sliced potatoes in there. Put your celery in there. Like 6 cups of it. That was like that full thing. I measured it into this box, and it was my whole thing of celery. the recipe called for less water. Oh, there's your one bay leaf. Put your one bay leaf. Now, don't worry about losing that. It'll come back. Now, my dill, I did a tablespoon. My cayenne pepper, I did 3/4 of a tablespoon. Pepper, full tablespoon. And then the parsley, I think I ended up doing 2. Yeah, 2 tablespoons of the parsley. And then you're supposed to do 3/4 a cup of this cream. And with as much vegetables as I had here, I didn't have enough water, so I added an extra 2 cups of water all total. I'll get into that in a second. And then added the full thing of the sour cream, 16 ounce or whatever. So add your 2 cups of water. You can start hear it cook down at the bottom, which sounds amazing. And then 4 cups of your broth. Now again, doesn't have to be beef broth. That's just what I had on the thing. You can do the same thing with 4 cups of water, and then 4 cups of another 4 cups of water with your bouillon mixed into it. Bouillon makes it just great, like the actual broth stuff makes it good. So now you got it nice and covered. I used 1 full teaspoon of salt. Once I had all the rest of that added, it wasn't enough salt. I ended up adding some later when I served it. Get it nice and stirred. You want to make sure your heat is nice and warm. Don't want to completely put it up on high, but you want to bring this to a rolling boil. Took about 3-4 minutes because there's so much vegetables in it. It was easier to heat up the water. So like I said, medium to medium high. Put the lid on there. Came to a boil about 3 minutes later. Give it a nice stir, and then I turned it down to simmer, and I let it all the way down to like very low simmer and let it sit for 20 minutes. Okay, now again, I ended up adding the full thing of cream to this because I didn't think it was near as creamy as it should have been. But 20 minutes, just let it simmer, and you're good to go. Now, after that 20 minutes, you're gonna have awesome soup. But again, it's going to be super thick. It depends on how small you cut your vegetables down. See how big this is? That looks great. It's almost like a celery stew at this point. But once you break out a blender and blend it all down, it makes it super smooth, super creamy. Now, I've never used one of these before, and I didn't know it was going to like suck down and stick to the bottom of the pot, but that blade does not play around. Please be very safe. Remember to stick it into the liquid before you turn it on, and don't pull it out like I did. I just sprayed celery soup all over my kitchen. So this blended really quick. I mean, like all of like 30 seconds, just kind of shook it around. And then once I checked it, it was like, oh, this is just all emulsified already. Makes it super rich, super creamy. It's great. Like I said, I added a little bit of salt. You can probably use a little bit of seasoning salt if you want to put something in there. There was just a little bit of fibrous stuff on the blender, but the rest of it was just straight celery soup. It was really good. I put it side by side with some bread and butter with some garlic spread on mine, which was amazing. This is really good. It's soup weather. This is well under our budget. Its vegetables are super cheap as of right now. I think the broth stuff was our biggest thing. It might be more expensive if you get the fresh parsley and fresh dill, and it makes it more of a green soup. This is what it looks like when it's been blended. If you want it more of the, canonically bright green soup, use the fresh vegetables, but dried stuff is just fine. This tastes great. You should really try this one. And there you have it, folks. Celery soup, which I didn't think was a thing, but you can take it if, you don't use the beef bouillon for it. It's vegetarian. You can take it to your, family gatherings, Thanksgiving, all that kind of stuff. And apparently it's good because you can probably hear him eating right behind the camera is Andy. Hi, Andy. We love him to death. He's our taste tester. If I'm kind of curious if it's going to work or not. I very much appreciate him being here for the test kitchen. Thanks, everybody. If you do it differently, you want to see us do it differently, let us know. Put it down in the comments. That's what they're there for. If you don't want to do that, you want to find us on social media. If you see this on social media, let us know. We're on Facebook, Pinterest, Patreon, all at Living Between Paychecks Kitchen. You can also find us at Instagram at Living Between. Get shorted over there. And I will see y'all next time. I'm going to go try some celery soup. Maybe it'll make me skinny.